Hi everybody, Bryony Kingsland here, the Funding and Policy Lead at City and Guilds. I'm going to cover where those timelines are affecting funding removal, because Anita's spoken about when the qualifications will be changed and reformed and on offer. And at the same time as that, we will see funding being removed from current qualifications. So your curriculum teams and your curriculum leads need to understand how this is going to affect what you're delivering and the sort of information of when qualifications will be removed and no longer available as publicly funded qualifications for delivery. And that's going to be, going to mean that you need to think about the new qualifications were announced, where they fit in your curriculum, how many guided learning hours they are. Some of them will have different guided learning hours to qualifications that are currently available. So curriculum planning for 2025, 26 and 27 is going to be a really important aspect of this whole reform phase for all providers. So I've created this funding timeline slide. Now at the moment we're only going phases 2 and 3 and cycles 1 and 2. I'm sorry, we've got phases, we've got cycles, we've got groups. We understand that there's a lot to take on board here. I'm hoping this timeline slide will help, and we will expand this out as new information becomes available. So eventually we've got this whole timeline available in 1 or 2 slides for you to understand when changes are occurring, when funding is being removed, and from what qualifications. You can see it hopefully all in 1, maybe 2 slides, depending on how much information is published. So you can see here, starting on the left-hand side, you can see the timeline across the middle. In January 2023, DfE published the criteria for future level 3 qualifications. So all of the awarding bodies are looking at our level 3s to see if they meet the criteria, whether they need rewriting, whether they need new additional information, and whether they fit the DfE's fairly rigorous criteria. And then we have to submit those, as Anita said earlier on, in July of 23. And that's for the cycle 1 level 3 subjects to be considered for funding, and they'll be available for funding and funded for delivery from 25-26. And then in November of this year we have to submit our level 2 technical, occupational entry and additional specialist qualifications in the cycle 1 routes for consideration for funding from September 2025. So what I've done here is I split all this off into pink, grey and blue. So grey are Department for Education, IFATE announcements and ESFA announcements about what they are doing and when we, our providers, are expected to basically carry out actions. Pink are actions that us, or awarding organisations, that we have to do and deadlines that we have to meet. And blue are the timings that affect providers. And I've actually updated this slide, but I haven't slid it into this slide deck, but the one that goes up online will be a slightly different slide, because I've made some of the grey boxes both grey and blue, because they might be DfE announcements, but they're also actions that providers may need to take forward and be aware of. So moving on to May 24, you can see there at the top, DfE will publish the list of Cycle 1 Level 3 qualifications approved for funding and delivery from 2025-26. And then in July 24, awarding organisations have got another submission cycle for Cycle 2 of Level 3. The date for delivery is mooted as 26-27, that needs to be confirmed, and also the submission date needs to be confirmed, the actual submission date, but that's the date, approximate dates we've been given. And then in July 2024, DfE will publish the list of Cycle 1 Level 2 qualifications approved for funding and delivery in 2025-26. And then on the 1st of August 2024, providers will see removal of funding from existing 16 to 19 Level 3 technical qualifications that offer similar learning journeys, content and destinations as T-levels in construction and the built environment, digital, education and childcare, and health and science. So any current Level 3 technical quals that reflect those T-levels, content and similar outcomes, they will be removed from the funded offer. So only the T-levels in those areas will be available. And then in November 2024, the AOs, the awarding organisations, have another submission cycle for that cycle 2 for level 2 subjects that will be funded for delivery from 26-27. Then in May 2025, moving into the next year, DfE will publish the list of Cycle 2 Level 3 qualifications approved for funding and delivery, and also the Cycle 2 Level 2 qualifications for funding and delivery in 2026-27. Then you start seeing some of the changes really hit. So from the 1st of August 2025, funding will be removed from existing Level 3 technical qualifications that overlap with approved T-levels in legal, finance, accounting, engineering, manufacturing, business and admin. And funding will also be removed from qualifications not approved as part of the DfE reforms to level 2 and 3 in ICT, health and care, dentistry, teaching, construction, engineering and childcare. So these are the qualifications which we're working on at the moment to reform, and that must meet the new DfE criteria for either progressing into a job or progressing onto a higher level of learning, or potentially they might be cross-cutting. The ones, all the qualifications that Anita mentioned earlier in cycle 1. So funding will be removed from any qualifications that do not meet that criteria. So we don't know what those lists are. They'll be published, as we said earlier on, next year, but these are definitely dates for you as providers to be aware of, because this is when you'll start looking at your curriculum and understanding what it is you can still deliver and what it is you cannot deliver, because it's no longer going to be available for funded. So the first teaching of Cycle 1 Level 3 approved and Cycle 1 Level 2 approved technical qualification, occupational entry and additional specialist qualifications will start from 1st of August, and qualifications which don't meet those requirements in cycle 1 will be removed from funding. We know there's going to be other announcements in 2025 and 2026 about cycle 3 and 4, about dates and timelines for when DfE will publish information. We don't have those exact dates yet, so I've just put them in as a sort of a pink one for us to be aware of. As I said, I will update this timeline later. And then from August 2026, first teaching of cycle 2 level 3 and level 2 approved qualifications will be available for delivery in hair and beauty, catering and hospitality, creative design, agriculture, land-based environmental and animal care, and digital. And then first teaching of approved cycle 2 level 2 qualifications in occupational entry and the additional specialist technical qualifications leading to employment in routes other than those considered in cycle 1. So that's the information that Anita gave you in the previous slides. So that is the timeline. We will put a slightly updated slide out when we put out this this slide deck available up on our website for you, because this will be going up on the website later. So that's your funding timeline. So obviously our aim is to support you right the way through this and make it as easy as possible for you to get access to this information. So one thing to be aware of is obviously the ESFA database of publicly funded qualifications, or whatever database they put in place that replaces FALA, because I have heard that they might replace FALA at some point, will update more often during the reform period than usual. So it's definitely important for providers to keep a check on FALA and make sure that the funding eligibility and the last date for a new start is in year, because that's your key date for delivery of a qualification. If that qualification is available in year, or the date has been extended to the next academic year in a particular funding stream, you know that that's the last date for a new start for any learner, so it's going to be available for delivery.